name is Dante Harmon again, and I have the privilege of having some amazing guests with me today. I'm going to start first with Lorrie. Lorrie is an author, and she's also the founder of Victory Over Violence. And Lorrie, if you will, you can unmute yourself. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do. So happy to have you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lorrie, as he said. I have Victory Over Violence of Florida, Inc., which was established in 2017. Victory Over Violence is near and dear to me. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization assisting victims of sexual assault, date rape, domestic violence, reach victory and reach freedom. We do this by providing education, providing summits, providing resources. We are a liaison to many of the nonprofit organizations in Florida, in Georgia, to help victims get resources that they need. This organization was birthed out of a need that I saw within my own family, within my own community. I am a survivor of date rape as well as domestic violence. And there were resources available that I was not aware of when I was going through my trauma. And so Victory Over Violence is here to assist and meet people at their need and help them get to freedom. So that is our mission, that is our goal. We love collaborating with other organizations and other people that have like mind, same purpose. And so today we are here to share and hopefully help someone get to freedom.
Amazing. Y'all, this is just we just getting started. That's just one guest. That's just one guest. So thank you, Lorrie. And Lorrie has a phenomenal book that you all need to get. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that in conversation. I believe it really, I know it will bless those that read it. And she really goes in depth into her story of things that personally happened to her. It is a must read. I think every teenage girl, every mother needs to read her book. Life altering, life changing, life changing. My next guest, Valerie Williams, she's another author, phenomenal. Listen, her testimony will just it will shut down this whole feed. Let me just say that. Her testimony by itself will just cancel this whole conversation because she shouldn't be here. She shouldn't be
Amen.
standing here. She should not be talking. She should not be among us, but God. So, Valerie, I'm so happy that you were able to do this. Talk to us. Tell us what you're into, what you're doing. Now, so happy that you're here with us on today.
I am too. I truly am. My name is Valerie L. Williams. I am an author, motivational speaker, and I am the CEO of Lovesmart. And Lovesmart is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that we started years ago, but we just got our status in 2020. And we are a nonprofit. We work with teens. I became a victim of domestic violence in a 20-minute period, one time episode. But I became a victim of domestic violence. I was shot 3 times, once in the head, had a bullet go all the way through my head, out the other side, 2 in my arm, 1 came out of my neck, in the back of my spine, no surgery, no stitches, no blood, transfusion. However, I still had to go through the same things a battered woman would go through. I lost everything. So that just became a passion of mine that I didn't want anybody to have to go through that. But as I began to do research and start working with domestic violence, I began to see that the numbers with our teens and young people was just increasing all over the world. And so we began Lovesmart, and Lovesmart is exactly what it says, to love smart, to get the tools you need, get the education you need, and the resources, so you will know how to love smart and not just love based on your feelings and emotions, but to have the tools to say, this is unhealthy, this is healthy. We partner over in Nassau, Bahamas. We go over to the schools. We'll be going back in September for the first time since COVID. And Victory of Violence, Lorrie will be traveling with us this year. So we're so excited about that, getting back into the schools. and just teaching and bringing awareness. We just decided this year to encompass the whole family as a whole in Lovesmart. So we're going to be doing men retreats because we want our families to be healthy, because that's where it starts. And if the family's healthy and our young people and our children can see that, then hopefully with the resources and tools, they will become healthy adults, and then we can have a healthy community. So it's just a pleasure to be here. And this is just one topic that there's many things that we, all together can offer you all. So we're just so glad that you're here to join us this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you, Val. I told y'all I have some phenomenal guests on here today. Y'all not ready. So last but not least, and these are our special guests on today. It's easy to talk about subject matter, but it's better when you have someone in the field that actually deals with this firsthand. And it's not enough for us to just be have experienced something, but to have somebody that can really talk to this from a clinical and a psychological manner. So my last two guests, I was able to meet Wendy Perry, a couple of years ago, Lorrie, at your foundation yearly event, and you talk about a phenomenal speaker. And oh my goodness, we were, not only did we connect, she touched so many people that were in the room that heard her speak, and her story again. You just got to hear it. You got to hear it. But last but not least, Dr. Michael Perry and Wendy Perry. I just met Michael today. This is what we do, y'all. I just met Michael today, and we were talking like we already knew each other. I'm so excited. He started talking a little bit about what he does, but I'm going to let them tell you. Dr. Michael and Wendy Perry, thank you all for doing this. Tell us more about your organizations and what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Dante. Thanks for having us on, man. Yeah, we appreciate it. I am Dr. Mike Perry. I'm joined by Wendy. And most people, that's how it goes. It's like, yeah, I know Wendy. I love her. And Mike's all right, too. We'll let you come in as long as Wendy is there first. But we are, and we're married, by the way. A lot of people ask us that, actually. Yeah, we are married. And so we've been married for 24 years. But we also served in the Army together. And we both retired at about 22 years. And Wendy retired about a year before I did. I am a licensed clinical psychologist, licensed in Georgia and the state of Washington. And so that's what I did in terms of training and practice for about the last half of my career. And so after retirement, or about a year before retirement, we started a company, a leadership development consulting firm, because we were in leadership in the Army from about the beginning, and we just needed to, I wanted to create an environment where, or help leaders create that environment where people can come and really enjoy what they're doing, like get up on Monday morning and want to come to work, love to be a part of this team and this culture. And so we created a company to help leaders do that, because we just felt like being in the military, there were a lot of limitations, and not necessarily on the motivation to build that kind of culture. So that's what we did. And so in addition to that, we've been in marriage ministry for, I don't even know, over a decade, I guess, at this point. And so we do a Facebook Live every Monday called The Marriage Shop. And that's on Facebook and YouTube every Monday. And we also speak for an organization called Family Life. We do marriage conferences a couple of times every year, spring and fall. So that's a little bit about me and us. I'll let Wendy give you more.
So I'm Wendy Perry, Mike's wife, and I'm a registered nurse. And so, I mean, you covered most of it, baby. But what I'll say is that we really hope to serve kind of as some people would call us relationship experts in some sense, right? And so it's not just about marriages. We extend beyond marriages to also people who want to know more about marriage, and if marriage is right for them, those people in long-term committed relationships as well. Just, how to navigate knowing yourself and knowing whether or not this relationship is going to work for you. And I think primarily what we believe is that when you can work foundationally at that point, point, then you can serve the family. And if you are building healthy families, then that will create healthy communities. So we're just excited to be here, excited to join these amazing women, and you too, Dante. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so elated and excited to have you all here on today. I don't there's so many different ways I can get started with this conversation, and we're gonna dive into it. But I really want to go really in depth just with the running definition. You know, we talk about narcissism, we hear the word thrown around, but do we really understand the meaning of what really a narcissist is? So I want to I'm probably going to share my screen in a second because I want to indulge even our audience as far as what narcissism really is, or what it's about. Again, many of us talk about it, but do we really know what it really means? So I'm going to share my screen, and as I share my screen, I'm going to just go through the definition, and we'll just dive into the conversation. What really is a narcissist? So a narcissist, a narcissistic personality disorder in which a person has an inflated sense of self-importance. A disorder that is found more commonly in men. Is caused by a combination of genetic and environmental factors. Symptoms may include an excessive need for admiration, disregard for others' feelings, inability to handle any criticism, or a sense of entitlement. Um, Again, treatment can help, but this condition can't be cured, or can it? It can last years, or it can be lifelong. It also requires medical diagnosis. Um, as I read that definition, and as I was thinking about the things that we say, you know, I want to kind of bring it a little bit more 2022. You know, we two-faced it, putting friends and families down behind their back. You know, we may say that, a tendency to blame. Um, we act differently in public than we do private. You know, just certain things. I kind of want to have this conversation about really what is a narcissist. Any of you all can dive in here at any point, but we saw the running definition. A lot of people really don't know what it is, and is it something? And I would even pose this question to you, Dr. Michael. Is this something that has to be diagnosed, that we shouldn't really be throwing this word or using this word just interchangeably at our convenience, because some of us may not really understand in depth what it is?
Yeah, thanks, Dante. I'm glad you framed it up in that way, because I mean, the definition you read, it's a fine definition, right? And there are
Right.
and there are several things. You know, there's a list of criteria, maybe a dozen or so. And you have to meet 5 in order to be diagnosed with the disorder. The problem is, you know, oftentimes people will, you know, we'll look at TV, for example, or maybe we're in relationships, and someone is behaving in certain ways, and we're like, you know, that person is narcissistic, or tell me if they're narcissistic, or what have you. So we want to take the label and we want to slap it on them. But there are, you know, narcissistic, if you look at that list of criteria, you could kind of consider those a list of maybe narcissistic traits, your behaviors that you might see,
Right.
that don't necessarily rise to the level of diagnosing the disorder. Because the thing about narcissism, narcissistic personality disorder specifically, and other personality disorders, is that in order to be a personality disorder that is diagnosable, then you got to hit those criteria. And not only do you have the criteria, but it has to be something that's been, you know, long-standing, right? Inflexible, like it doesn't change when situations change. And this is the key with any personality disorder, really any psychological disorder, is that it has to be disruptive to your personal, your social, and your work environment. It has to be something that disrupts you from being able to live that normal, productive, healthy, happy life, right? And if that is the case, then you can label it disorder. However, it's often difficult to tag people with that, and a lot of therapists will, you know, and psychologists in particular will step back from actually diagnosing the disorder, in part because narcissism, if you think about it, the very nature of it causes people to not necessarily admit or own or even, embrace the idea that this is a problem, right? And so it's very difficult. In order to come in there and walk in there and be subject to that evaluation and that assessment, that diagnosis, you got to submit to that.
Right.
The person who kind of has these narcissistic traits has a difficulty with the submission. That's kind of part of the whole package.
Yeah, that says a mouth. You're saying a mouthful right there.
Yeah.
Submitting to something that you can't even admit to.
Right. I mean, because for a lot of people going into that clinic is like, hey, something's wrong with me, right? This is not what you would expect somebody who has narcissistic tendencies or traits to do. The other thing I'll say is this, just in terms of treatment, personality disorders in particular, some people won't even try to treat, right? They are historically notoriously it's just difficult to treat because this is this is the framework of a person, right? Their personality has been developed a certain way for a certain reason. And that's kind of the foundation of who they tend to be. So you'll find it's very difficult to treat. And we'll talk probably more about this later, but oftentimes the best you can do is raise awareness of it. And if they care enough, then they will, hopefully allow somebody to signal them when something is happening, when they're feeling some kind of way, when the behaviors are continuing. And maybe then they're willing to make a different decision, right? But in terms of treatable, some people will consider personality disorders to be untreatable. You don't cure it. You more help them to raise awareness and maybe modify behavior a bit.
Wow.
So,
You're raising awareness by even just saying that one statement, the awareness of it, that this is, and again, I knew this was going to be a very powerful conversation. Lorrie, as he was talking, I saw you shaking your head. I saw Val. So chime in at any point. Go ahead, Lorrie.
Yeah. And he said exactly how I've felt the more I've learned about narcissism. They've got to be willing to admit that there's an issue.
Yes.
And if the person has this true disorder, that is a part of the disorder, is that I'm right, everybody else is wrong. There is nothing wrong with me. Something's wrong with you. Because one thing I've learned about narcissists is they will quickly turn things around and say, I didn't say that. You said that. I didn't say that. What are you talking about? You're crazy. I mean, so to think someone with that type of mindset is going to admit something's wrong with them and then allow another person to tell them that something's wrong with them or that they have a disorder or any type of functioning problem, that is going to be hard to treat because this person first has to admit something's wrong with them. Right. And if they truly have this disorder, it's going to be hard because, first of all, they're never wrong. And who are you to tell them that they're wrong?
Wow.
So I totally agree that this would be difficult for even a psychologist or psychiatrist to try to assist a person who's not there yet, that mentally they're not there yet. And I do believe it would take, like he said, something else for them to love more, which is hard to think with the narcissist, something else that they love more, or a person that they love more that they're willing to change for, right, or willing to even admit that, okay, maybe I'll listen. Maybe I'll go with you and listen. Maybe you'll be able to get them to that point if they care enough. But again, if they truly have this disorder in the clinical term and have all these characteristics and all these traits, there's nothing in those characteristics and traits that I read that would say if this person is truly on this end of the spectrum, that they're going to admit that they're wrong or that something's wrong with them, because it's usually everybody else.
Right. And that's that whole placating and blaming, putting it off on someone else. So this is really, really, really good. Lord, Val, did you want to add something to that?
I was just thinking about, like she was saying, the accountability part, that you can't even get them to take accountability for their wrong or whatever it is. So how would we expect them to say, hey, yeah, I do need help, or that is me, because they don't even take accountability for what they just said.
Right.
Or what they just did. And they know that they did it. They know that they did it, but I can't even take accountability for that because I always have to be right. I have to have this acceptance and it's approval and it's admiration, you know, and those things. So I was just thinking when Doctor was talking, I was just thinking about like some of the people I know that are in those relationships, but you don't know that they don't even know that that's what's going on because they don't even have a clue of narcissistic disorder, anything, nothing. They just thinking, oh, that's just who that person is. That's just the way they act. Or but then it takes us to get into all this big long relationship, and then further down, you know, we're saying something's wrong with you, then something really is wrong with you. But we don't even think narcissistic traits or what to look for. You know what I mean? We just think, oh, you just want to accept, you just want to take accountability for what you're doing or what you just said.
Right.
And just kind of continue going down that path until we are stuck in a relationship that we can't get out of, that we're miserable and heavy and going through all this stuff, and you thinking this person is going to change. That person is not going to change because they have those 5, 6, 12 traits that that Dr. Mike was, because some of them have 15, 21. Yeah.
I think for me, I think what hit I would say caused the bubble to burst for me is I've been through these trainings. I've had summits for the last 4 or 5 years, and I've been to other summits, and I've listened to other DV counselors, intimate partner violence counselors, you know, and I've heard all these different trainings and awareness, and then when it happens to you, and when it's happened to me, it made me question my own, I would say my own sanity, like, wait a minute, but I know that just happened, and I know what you said.
Right.
And so you start running things back, you're like, wait, time out. Wait a minute. I know I'm not crazy. I know what was said, I know what was done, but then to have me question myself, and then it happened more than once, then it happened more than twice. And like Michael said, it's a pattern. It's how that person operates. That's what made me say, wait a minute. And then, you know, then you talk to other people and they share their experiences, and you put those things together and you're like, wait a minute. Is that what a narcissist is? You know, and it's not like you can ask the person, are you narcissist? No, you can't. That doesn't work that way. But I think just bringing awareness that if that is the way that person operates, and we had this kind of side conversation earlier, then you have to decide, is that something you want to deal with? Because you can't, to think that you're going to change a person, I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, Lorrie, I love that you said that. And, you know, the point that you made about, you know, this desire that they will love something more, you know, or enough that would make this important for them, right? This whole idea of what is the thing that could potentially bring them out of it. And I think often in relationships, we make the mistake of believing that I could love you through it. I could somehow be the thing that compels you to change, or, you know, that it's my job to heal you in some way. You know, now I'm taking on that responsibility or that burden of bringing you to this place of healing. I mean, you know, as women, we'd love to heal something, right? I mean, I can love you through this. Let me help you. And that's where sometimes I think we get a little off track. And you know, so I wanted to just kind of jump in there and say that within the relationship, it's not either person's job to heal the other person.
Yeah.
With whatever it is that they have going on. It's just not your responsibility to heal them or bring them through it. So I love that you said that. And yeah, that just sparked that. I had to jump in right there.
Yeah.
You just sparked some. Go ahead, Dr. Perry.
No, I'm glad you said that though, because I think it fits in line a little bit with what I'm about to say. But you're right that, and you have to understand, you know, where we're coming from. We are, I guess you could consider us marriage experts, as much as you can be that, right? But we help people work on marriage, and it's difficult to say that sometimes you have to make a decision to protect yourself, right? If the marriage is hurting you, marriage is not supposed to hurt you. A loving relationship is not supposed to hurt you, right? Like, You can't look to that person to heal you, but that person can help you create a space where you can heal, right? And so they can show you empathy and they can show you kindness and understanding and caring and all that. And so that's what love is supposed to look like. And so when you're dealing, and so maybe this is helpful to people, because when you're dealing with someone with certainly with, well, I'll say with a personality disorder, as we might call it, one key thing you'll notice is that, man, this feels like a lot of work. Right now, of course, people say, relationships work, marriages work, right? And that's true. But when you're dealing with somebody who has these pervasive personality patterns, it's different kind of work. It's like you're rolling this stone uphill and you wake up the next day and it's like, man, I'm at the bottom of the hill. I'm rolling this stone uphill again. And you find yourself in these patterns. With narcissism, and I have to say, we're talking about something that exists on a continuum, right? Any person you meet may tend to talk about themselves a little more than you like, maybe, right? Maybe they draw the conversation themselves. Maybe they like to be admired a little bit, whatever. But when you begin to stack the different factors and you look at somebody who's maybe a bit more manipulative, maybe a bit more, self-serving, self-focused, can't focus on you, right? Everything's your fault. Nothing's my fault. Well, now you might be talking about something different. But I trained, one of the places I trained when I was coming up was out over at the Naval Academy. And one of my supervisors, when I was doing work there, told me something that has stuck with me for my entire life. And she said that people often say that narcissists, like, they don't cry, like they don't have enough empathy to cry. I'm like, well, but she said, that's not true. She said they will cry, but when they do, they're crying for themselves. So I want you to just let that sink in for a second, right? Because on the surface, what to you might look like normal feelings and empathy and all that, even that can be an indicator of something that is very much self-focused. So that for that person, I will make it real for y'all, right? So somebody's dog dies, right? You might cry because your dog died. That person might cry because this was the one, and by the way, I don't want to overgeneralize, but oftentimes they have people who are narcissistic have a great relationship with their dogs. Why? Because that dog, you come home every day, every day is brand new, right? I love you. Oh, I love you, right? Rub me, right? I need you, right? So you'll often find that. But when there are tears, there's something that they've lost. So in a relationship, when you say, hey, it's over, I'm done, and that person comes to you and they're crying and bawling, they're nothing like the person who was just disrespecting, don't mistake the tears for necessarily for you, because those tears might be for them and all the benefit they had.
Oh my God.
Being with you.
That's wow. you just, both of y'all all of y'all said a mouthful. I'm trying to recover. My pen can't go as fast as the notes that I'm taking. Oh my goodness. I want to piggyback on something Wendy, you said, and I had to write it down. It's not your responsibility to heal someone else. That and this is kind of what provoked, and I know Wendy thought about that as she was listening to Lorrie and Val, but I kind of want to kind of take a detour just for a second. I do relationship coaching as well. I'm certified to teach classes for people who have been incarcerated, who have been ostracized in life and have to go through rehabilitating themselves to get back into society. I take my role seriously. I meet people every time I have these classes. And what I find so interesting is everyone's story is so unique and so different, and it's their stuff, right? We don't know. We think we know. We think we've heard it all. And when you listen to the stories and the things that they've gone through, it just humbles you. It changes you. It encourages you. I know it encourages me to do more of what I'm doing. But what I'm so baffled by is the lack of what you stated, Wendy, the responsibility that people don't take, and sometimes we feel the need of having to help somebody else heal when they don't want to heal. Can you just dive into that a little bit more? Because I thought that was such a great comment. Because it's not our responsibility to heal somebody. Now, I can give you what you need. I can tell you how to do it. I can give you the 17, 15, 2 steps and whatever you need to do. But at the end of the day, I think it's, if that's what I'm hearing, it's kind of your decision whether you want to do it or not.
And I think ultimately that's true, regardless of the diagnosis, right? Regardless of the condition, regardless of what's occurring. And many of us are inherently servers. We're givers. We're nurturers. And when we're in that profession, that type of profession, where that's our construct, that tendency really extends to every relationship that we have, be it personal or professional. And so as we live life, it's just become apparent that, we take on burdens and we take on responsibility that oftentimes those people have not asked us to take on. They don't expect us to take on.
Right.
But we make it part of who we are, what we do. And what we often do is we increase the intensity, the frequency, and overall the amount of what we're giving and what we're doing, because we believe that by doing it more, that somehow we're going to accelerate the process or be more effective. And I think, Dante, as you said, it just depends. It really comes back to really looking at the nature of the relationship itself. And I guess discovering and determining what it is that you're actually being brought in to do. What is your role in that relationship,
Right.
be it personal or professional? I hope that helps clarify a little.
Absolutely. I think that, people that are going to listen to this a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, they're going to they're going to take value in not only the statement but just understanding it even more. It's the little things. Sometimes we negate the little things for the big picture, but it's those little things. It's that little saying. It's that little thing. Because we do sometimes we go into relationships wanting to change somebody, wanting to make do this or alter this or do that, or we can't. That's something that the person has to take the responsibility themselves to want to do. So I
Yeah,
think that's so
yeah.
profound. Did you all want to add anything to that, Val, Lori, Dr. Perry? This is so good. I'm so happy about
Let
what
me
we.
add this.
Yes, go ahead. Go
You're
ahead.
like, you said enough, Wendy. Anybody else want to add something?
Uh-uh.
But as
Go
it
ahead,
relates to
please.
narcissism per se, I think it's important to make that distinction, right? Because that person is going to be a taker.
Hmm.
That person is going to allow you to plus up and increase and do more and exhaust yourself to serve them. And so the context is important. And so I just wanted to make that point because that's what we're here to talk about.
And, and,
So
and,
Yep.
and
yeah,
this is
thank
why
you.
we have you all here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
This
and
is.
just speaking on what she was just saying,
Mhm.
taker. They are takers. And I was thinking about what Mike said earlier about crying. They're not crying because the dog died. They're crying because the dog brought them the paper every day. And it's the same thing in the relationship. I a narcissist, you would think they were upset because the relationship broke up because they loved you so much. No, they're upset because their benefits got cut off. It's a difference. And when that person is a true narcissist, that empathy part that you're looking for, I'm just talking from personal experience, it's not there.
Right.
It's more of how dare you do this to me? And they're talking about themselves, not us, me. How dare you do this to me?
Mhm.
Now I have to go do this and I have to go do that. Oh, you've got to be accountable and responsible. Oh, okay. So, but that takes to be able to step back from that and kind of reflect like, okay, what is my part in this? Not necessarily how can I fix this person, but what is my part in this? And that was one of the other reasons why I wanted us to get together and talk about this, because like Wendy alluded to earlier, women, as women, we want to nurture, we want to care, we want to fix things, we want to make things right in our home, we want to make everybody around us feel better if that's our personality. And that's the type of person I am too. So with that, you take on other people's burdens, you take on other people's weights. And when you're dealing with a person that you love, you go that extra mile and you try to do those extra things, not thinking, oh my gosh, maybe I'm contributing to what is happening here. But what you have to realize is this person is just a taker. It has nothing to do with the fact that you have a giving heart and you're a gracious person. I was raised that way. I was raised to be a giver. I was raised to, give out of your need and help people when you can, and serving. I was raised that way. But also I'm also attractive to people who are takers. And I had to realize that about myself as well. So one thing I felt like I had to do is learn to say no. Some things are just non-negotiable.
Yeah.
And it takes time, it takes maturity to step back and say, okay, wait a minute, how am I contributing to this problem?
Right.
And if this is not something I can live with or want to deal with, and get up every morning, like Michael said, you rolling that ball from down at the bottom of the hill again every morning, that is exhausting.
Yeah.
That is exhausting. And if it's taken away from my joy, my happiness, my peace, I'm done.
Right.
Yeah. If I could, Dante,
Yes.
Lorrie, you said something. I think it is. I was thinking, what is a way that, at least one way you can begin to unpack, because a lot of people get involved in these relationships early on. You don't really think it's going the way it's going. All you know is you meet this person. Typically, they're going to be real charming on the front end, right? They're going to charm everybody because what they're doing is, you're priming the pump because you want to give out a whole lot of what you expect to get back, right? And so really charming, really engaging. They're gonna be paying attention, and they're probably gonna be, highly accomplished. You're gonna know it generally, right? If they accomplish something, you're gonna know everything, all the cool stuff they've done and the difference all that stuff. And it's gonna be like, wow, this is amazing. I think you're amazing, right? And so you'll walk into this thing. And so what you said though, it hit a spark. Like you said, you had to learn to say no. What you'll find, like whether we're talking the end of a relationship, because what tends to happen when you're in a relationship with a person like this, narcissist, that is, at first it'll be the tears, right? Please don't leave me, it'll be all that. If you hold on to that no long enough, it'll turn to attack, right? Why? Because the tears weren't about you. That's why. It's about what I lost. And exactly what she said is she just hit it like, what now? Look at what you made me do. Look at what I got to do. I got to sleep in my car now because of you. No, you got to sleep in your car because you created an environment that was unsurvivable for this other person, right? But they can't own that. So you'll see a distinct lack of ownership. All right. So I do want to at least say something that helps to give a little hope to maybe somebody who feels like they have those tendencies, and a little empathy for those who are looking at these folks, right? Because I know you're like, empathy for somebody who maybe doesn't have any. Yeah, because everybody is who they are through some reason, some route, right? And so I think it's important to acknowledge and understand that everyone, you come up in a certain way, and the way that your personality is developed is often a product of early life experiences and upbringing. And what you'll find is there's been some deep-seated insecurity that's been planted. It can be because your parent was, the president of the United States, or somebody really important and really rich. It could be because they told you that you got to be this way. It could be because they told you it wouldn't be anything. If you look at the research, I think it's really uncertain as to what creates that. But what ends up happening is there's this seed of doubt and insecurity that's way deep, and the narcissistic traits just cover it up, right? And so if you do anything that gets close to that core, you'll find an immediate backlash. It's what we call narcissistic injury, right? You push the button that exposed my my insecurity just for a second. So now I got to do everything I can do to patch that hole up and to let you know who I really am, right? And so I say that not so you can have empathy and say, well, maybe I need to just deal with this. No, it's just you need to understand that whatever is driving that, it's so deep, most people will never touch it.
Wow. Now this is where, and I'm so glad you said that, because this is kind of where I'm in the direction I want to go in. And wow, from tears to attack, from tears to attack. That was a, I had to write that one down. That was a note taker, because that's exactly what it is. They go from that stage to the next stage, placating and blaming, from tears to attack. So I know we alluded to it earlier, and I know we're probably going to get into it, and I want to watch my time because I'm very respectful of everybody's time. This is a Sunday; everybody wants to get to the park. It's pretty out, but I want to go into these characteristics and some of the different things that we alluded to earlier, about narcissists and the different type of behavior patterns that are shown. What are the, there's some common types. I'll start by saying that there's some common types that we go by, and again, any of you all feel free to share. I'll share my screen again and just kind of allude to some of the common types that we see. The grandiose narcissist. I'm better than you, and I know it. Kind of like gaslighters. You have your malignant narcissist. I'll do whatever it takes to get whatever I want. The covert narcissist. I'm a great artist, but the world will never notice my talent. Or the communal narcissist. Look at all the great things I've done for the world. Again, it's so different. They're so different. We talk about these main type of narcissists. Being antagonistic, malignant, communal, covert, or overt, which is a classic kind of a narcissist. But all in all, these are things that we really see and that we really get to really get about a person, and they come in different forms. Can you talk a little bit about, or anybody just talk a little bit about that overt, or that communal type narcissist, and what that really looks like? I know we kind of gave that example, and it was really quick, but that, and I'll go back through it again. That the communal looks at all, like we look at all things great, okay, and all the things I've done for the world. The communal narcissist. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that looks like, maybe versus a covert? I'm a great artist, but the world will never notice my talent. Because they're kind of different. They're night and day. So it's hard to even depict that kind of narcissist.
All right, I'll speak on these, Dante, even though, clinically speaking, like they're officially, right, you wouldn't see that in the book. But I'll just say this, what those two share is the repetition, right? It's the pattern. And so for either of those, you're gonna know about it, right? Somebody's gotta know what I've done for the world. Somebody's gotta know, right? The covert narcissist is the one who's basically like, well, I'm not gonna say anything, but we know I did X, Y, and Z. So they're gonna let, like, the person that's closest to them, it won't be a new story to them. All of the marvelous things that they've done, although nobody knows it, because I've been trying to keep it low key, because I'm humble. I try to not, I don't need all that attention. I just need you to know that I did it, right? So
This role playing is pretty good.
is it good? Is it good? Okay, I'm trying. I'm trying to channel everything I've ever seen.
We appreciate it. We appreciate it. We had roles. We had a few for you, so thank you, Mike.
Yeah,
You own it.
Yeah. So, but if that's the person you're dealing with, you'll notice that, man, it's going to fatigue you. Just like we said earlier, it's going to fatigue. You're going to be tired of hearing about it, and you're going to hear about it over and over again, and you're going to be able to begin to repeat the narrative that you hear, right? It's all when you're talking about personality disorders, it's always work, like always.
Yes.
Wow. Lorrie, did you want to add, or Val, did y'all?
I'm gonna let Val jump in on this one.
Well, I don't know what I'm gonna talk about it in a different sense, because I don't know what the title would be, what type of narcissist it would be, because I deal with a lot of women that are getting relationships from, say they've been hurt, okay, then they meet someone and they didn't receive everything they wanted out of this first person. That last person didn't open the doors and didn't praise them, but now this one, he does all the time, just lavish you. You're wonderful. You're the best thing ever happened to me. Just constant compliments, want to be with you all the time, not knowing that this is a type of personality, you know, this is what they do to set you up to get that attachment. So I don't know, you know, how, like, and I guess that's what we was talking about earlier. I guess that's when a person needs to take time from when they get out of a relationship and take time to get themselves back in a place of being balanced and whole before going into a relationship. Because to me, I think we set ourselves up, like you were saying, Wendy, that nurturing thing. And then we feel like, oh, he has an issue, let me handle this. He has this going on in his life, let me take care of that. You know, now I'm cooking, now I'm doing this, now I'm washing clothes, now I'm helping, now I'm trying to, you know, and all the time is basically was a setup for the catering to feeding the narcissist what they need. Right. But we're thinking it's about us. So it's like you become a supply. And then when you decide, like, I'm shutting it off, they just go get another supply.
Right.
And so how do we help them understand not to, like, I guess to look for those things, and not to say that you can't meet someone that is saying, oh my God, you're beautiful, you're such a lovely person. Is there a pattern with that? Like, is it overly, you know, like Dr. Mike is like overly, like, oh my God, it's too much, you know? Because to me, I think I would go, what is he doing? Is he trying to, that's too much. Like, come on now, that's, and it wouldn't be a compliment anymore. It would be more like, what are you trying to, you just trying to get, that's me. You trying to just attach me emotionally. Because once I'm attached emotionally, then you pretty much, let's be real, you pretty much got me, right? Because I'm attached emotionally. So how do we help them to understand, like, is there just even if this is going on, just don't be so quick to make those moves, or don't be so quick to express yourself. Just kind of watch and see if this is a pattern, you know, because when the narcissist is done, they're done, right? They ghost. They're never really committed. They're never really engaged. They don't really have a plan for you. You're there, but they don't really have a, we're going here in the future. They don't do that. But because we're so emotionally attached, we're just looking at right here, and all the things that I didn't get out that last relationship, I'm getting it here. But what you're doing is basically setting yourself up for, you know, a heartbreak, or worse, you know, to have your life wrecked.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's such a challenging question, because depending on how the term we'll often use is how sophisticated someone is. It doesn't look overtly like, because it's going to feel good, right? It's like, yeah, this is, I think this is what I've been waiting for. I haven't heard that I hadn't gotten this. And so it requires then that you listen in a different way, because the difficult thing about love is that sometimes in order to do what's best for yourself, you will make decisions that maybe are counter to how you feel in this moment, right? I want to say yes to what you're asking me, right? Maybe, you know what? Maybe you want to get intimate sooner than I thought. I want to say yes to that, right? It's kind of soon, but I think I'll say yes. No, well, maybe you should go ahead and stick to whatever that barrier is, that boundary you created. Maybe you stick to that boundary. Boundaries, at some point, boundaries of various sorts are going to push a button that begins to reveal who you're really dealing with. And so having boundaries in place, even when you feel good, really important, right? Paying attention to how the dialogue goes. Typically speaking, and this is some of everybody, so I don't want y'all to, don't take too much from what I'm saying, but when you hear about past relationships, it'll be about all of the trauma. It'll be all the things that happened to them, and what you know, they don't want to, you know, they basically will try to shape your behavior, because the other person used to do that thing and I didn't like that thing, and or that reminds me of X, Y, and Z. And so you will find it's not a dialogue about, hey, this is the pain I've been through, what I've grown from. It's what still pains me right now that you can't do, if that makes sense, right? So there's an early attempt to begin to shape your behavior, right? And depending on how bad it is, you may begin to see things that begin to pull you away from the support that you have in place, because it's kind of working against the motivation, right, of the person that's trying to draw to kind of get you hooked, as Valerie is talking about, right? So you just have to pay attention. But I think the most helpful thing I can say is that boundaries and time begin to reveal who you're really dealing with. And once they show you, once that initial kind of attack comes in, it'll throw you off like, whoa, what was that? Once you have that moment, it's really time to pay attention, right? And to begin to, maybe, and in this case, I would say talk to somebody, whether it be a close friend, whether it be a therapist, something like that. But just to kind of bounce those things off, because isolation, people can gaslight you a little easier when you're isolated, because you begin to question yourself, like, sometimes we just need somebody to give us a little reality check, a little sounding board, because it's like, man, I know I'm not crazy. Am I? Right? Yeah. And so I think it's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly.
You still question it. Am I crazy?
Am I crazy?
Right?
Yeah.
I thank God for Dante and Val. I'm serious, because I'm just like, am I crazy?
Yeah, it's like it detaches you from your common sense. Like you can get so far into it until, and like you were saying, all these things that they're doing, and it's like that emotional attachment, but it's really a detaching you, because you're no longer using your boundaries that you set, and it's just like you said, a lot of people are not gonna go, God, I set that boundary and I gotta stick to this boundary. I've communicated this boundary, but it's up to me to keep this boundary in place. So, but all the overly attention and this and that, it detaches you from your common sense to say, let me put this boundary here. Let me put some time. Let me step back and think about this, because we're so emotionally attached to the situation, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it just makes me think about how important it is to know yourself. Mm-hmm. Because I think if there's any question about who you are going into it, then you're more vulnerable to be, if someone is suggestive, right? If they are prescriptive, if they are directive and telling you who you should be. If you don't start from a place of knowing who you are, then it's so much easier for you to kind of morph into who they want you to be, who they make you believe they need you to be. And I think that, as we look at that, you'll often hear in the same sentence with narcissism, you'll hear dependency or codependency. And people will sometimes mistake the synergy of those relationships to be, well, we're vibing, we're in sync, you need me and I want to take care of you. And so we're complementary in so many ways. And I love what you said in terms of knowing the origin of those things, right? Going back to where that began. And so knowing yourself includes identifying or knowing if you have a dependent personality. Because it could be that there's something within you, as you described, Lorrie, that is attracting those people, and so doing that self-work, doing that introspection, maybe that's through therapy, maybe that's through, talking or support groups, but some process to really get to know yourself. And if you've come out of a traumatic relationship or had some experience, to re-know yourself, right? Get to know yourself now. That's who you used to be. Who are you now?
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's key. One of the classes that I teach is one of the essential things that we teach. And I always do this game at the beginning, and I give them these 5 words. And knowing is one of the words, KNOW. And what's funny is how many people, I've done this with educators. Trust is another word that we use in those 5 words that we give them. And I tell them I scramble the words and tell them to put it in order of importance. And they always put trust first, no second. I've done this with educators, principals, leaders, and they get it wrong. They mistake the trust, and they work with kids. These are individuals that work with kids, and it's like, how do you expect a kid to just flat out trust you when they don't know you? And that's so important. So thank you for bringing that up, Wendy, because knowing is half the battle. We can't get to a level of trust if we don't understand or have knowledge, have information about who we are. And most times, let me say this: it's not for the other person. It's for me first. That's the thing that we do in relationships where we have all this criteria and we just hand it out to the other person because we want this, but we don't show up being what I'm saying I'm supposed to be. We got the list, but oh no, that's for, yeah, that's for her. Hmm. I'm exempt.
That's good. Yes, sir.
And we got it wrong. We got it all wrong. And I think that's the thing that's going to make us and help us get to the next level of things. So, for my Facebook audience that's watching, you all are just diving into a conversation, eavesdropping into a conversation that we're having about narcissism, but you're getting so many different perspectives. You're getting the clinical version of it. You're getting the just the firsthand version of what we think and having and asking questions. And here's something I want to say, even as we're dialoguing, one of the things I'm starting to figure out is that this is not an easy thing to figure out. We say it, but I don't know. This is not something that we can just loosely talk about or just say. And this is coming from a psychologist, that deals with this type of trauma. So in saying that, I want to, I respect our time, and I think we're going to probably have to have a part two to this because there's so much more we need to unpack. But I do want to help a lot of the people that are watching out. Um, and again, this is for everyone, but more specifically for Dr. Perry. There are a lot of people that's going to be watching this, and they probably 2 months from now, a year from now, 5 months from now. How do people realize or come to the personalization of what to do or what advice to take, and they're questioning themselves about somebody that that someone that they're with that is really could be narcissistic. They don't know. What do I do? What path should I take? What steps do I, navigate through to not only safely go into this relationship, but if I'm scratching my head, if I'm having to call my friends and say, was I right? All the time or every now and then, what is it that I should be doing? What are some
Yeah.
steps that we could take to kind of help in these kind of situations?
Dante, I knew you were gonna ask this question, right? I still,
Yes.
I think my answer will leave. It leaves me feeling unsatisfied. So I believe, I believe most people feeling unsatisfied. However, I think a couple things, and I said that, dealing with somebody who has this type of thing going on is hard work. It's work, right? Maybe I should switch that to it's a burden, right? Because people always say that love is work and relationships are work, but no, this is burdensome. This is a different kind of thing, right? I think early on, if you're asking yourself those kind of questions,
Hmm.
I think it's an early indicator that maybe you should probably go a different direction.
Wow.
I mean, and that's kind of definitive to say, but if this pops and you're asking yourself like, wait a minute, am I the one? Is it me? Am I the drama? Right? Am I crazy? Like that may be an indication that maybe this might not be the one, even with all the amazing things about them, because people just have really great things about them that we really enjoy, things that we love about them. And there are some things about them that are harmful to us. And so if you identify something early, maybe it's time to look the other direction.
Wow.
If you find yourself in a relationship, well, now you gotta, like say you've married someone and you've realized, because there's a reason. If you're asking this question, is my partner, my spouse, a narcissist? If you're asking yourself that question,
Right.
there's a reason why,
Mm.
right? And so you can't ignore that reason. And so you have to ask yourself some very tough questions. Can you deal with this person as they are? Because the pattern will continue, generally speaking, right? Are they willing to listen enough? Like if they're willing to listen and go and talk to somebody and sit down, maybe you can build enough awareness so that when you check them, they can go the other way, right? But you have to expect that what you're looking at right now, this is what you got. Can you deal with that?
Wow. Wow. That says a lot. I was sitting going through, even just listening to what you were saying, some of the signs and symptoms that we see, and we talked a little bit about some of those, but just constantly needing praise, admiration, sense of entitlement, exploits others with guilt or shame, demeaning, intimidating, bullying, belittling. Um, that unpacks a lot, just a whole world of just symptoms and signs. But you just kind of just gave it, just kind of put it all in a nutshell. When you see certain things like this, and then it's just overwhelming, it's probably best, and like you just said, to go the other way. A lot of times, what we said, and we said this early on, we're trying to fix the other person. We're trying to fix their we're trying to fix them, or we're trying to, it's kind of like that fix a flat. We just go buy it and we just stick it on the thing, and so we let that do the work. We want to fix. I gotta have my hands in it. I gotta fix it. And I think some of us are really to that point where you got to step away. At some point, you got to have to, you know, th- go the other way, or that's something that we just can't. If it's just so overwhelming that you can't see yourself, it's time to go the other way and just kind of, leave your hands free of it. Lori, did you want to interject something?
Yeah, and when it gets to a person being demeaning and belittling and that type situation, now you're looking at emotional, mental abuse. I mean, that over and over and over, telling someone you're nothing without me. What are you going to do without me? You have those kids, and who's going to want you, and that type stuff. A person constantly demeaning and belittling a person, that's verbal abuse, that's emotional abuse, that's mental abuse. So you've gone beyond a person just making you feel uncomfortable or embarrassing you, or being nice to you in front of people, but yet putting you down behind closed doors. Now you're borderline of this. Now we're looking at a whole different spectrum of abuse that may not be physical,
Right.
but emotionally, now you're on this roller coaster of, oh, he takes me to dinners and spends money on me. And, we ride in a nice car, we live in a nice house. But behind closed doors, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, I should have known better. And why'd you say this? And why'd you say that? Because remember, they're not going to take the blame for anything. So making you feel like you're the dumb one is their way of, that's just what they do. And when it becomes a pattern, do you want to live that way? Is it worth the nice house and the nice car? Is it worth, you know, telling people you're married? What good is that when you're going to bed crying every night?
Mm.
So it's for me, it has to be a point where you have to know yourself enough and love yourself enough to say that I deserve better. I deserve better, and know that you deserve better, because this person has this, personality disorder that not only will they not acknowledge, but other people, you can't worry about what other people think or see, because again, this person is very, very good at masking, very good at putting on a show in front of people.
Right.
But behind closed doors, they don't value you.
Mm.
So ignoring those signs and just thinking, oh, he's going to get better. He's going to be, if I do this, he won't do that. If I don't push those buttons, he won't say this. Now you're into that's a whole nother topic, that abuse cycle. I mean, so it does get to that point if you allow that to continue to happen, and that pattern keeps happening, and they have that control over you to kind of subject you to doing whatever they want you to do that you've always done, and now you don't want to do it. So again, it takes you sitting back saying, can I live with this? Is this something I want to live with?
Wow. That says a lot. Is this something that I want to live with? Is something that I can live with? And again, these are personal questions, and I really think, and I almost see the conversation just delving more into what Dr. Michael and Wendy do. This relationship thing, just we this relationship advice that we all need. How are we showing up in our relationships? We reflect what we get. We get what we reflect sometimes in life. And I think sometimes when we see ourselves like, man, did I actually allow that? And it's that type of thing that makes us, just take out a mirror and just look at ourselves. I'll never forget, I was at a church, and I was doing a workshop with some young people, and I found it so just, it was sad, and it was humbling, but it was hurtful at the same time. I had this exercise, but I had a bunch of mirrors, and I pulled out these mirrors, and I just started passing them around. And what I wanted them to do is, we were just participating in a group activity, and I had given them all a sheet of paper and something to write with, and they were just to look in the mirror and write 10 things about themselves that they are happy about, or that makes them feel good, just by looking in the mirror. I had some beautiful young girls, 13, 14 years old, some young boy, and they just couldn't write one thing. At that age, they couldn't see within themselves one thing. I say that to say, in relationships, people will tell us anything because we're not telling it to ourselves, right? So they'll tell us whatever they want us to hear, and we accept it, not knowing who they really are, because we haven't even defined ourselves, right? We don't even know how to look into the mirror and define ourselves, but we'll let somebody else tell us what we want to hear and what we think we might be. And what happens is, we end up somewhere we don't want to be, because we don't, it struck me because these are young kids. They were 13, they were probably from about 12 to about 17 years old. And I promise you, if you looked in the room, you would have just seen beautiful children. They were from the outside, just beautiful. Even on the inside, some quiet, just introverted, but very smart, intelligent kids. But they couldn't think of nothing to say, nothing to write about themselves. And I think the thing that and this is again, I'm going off into a whole nother tangent, that we really need to pay attention to, is what do we really tell ourselves about us, right? That we're waiting on somebody else to define for us. What are we saying? What really are we saying to ourselves? So I'm just so glad we're having this conversation, because it's needed. And I've been in church all my life, and I've never heard a preacher talk about narcissism from the pulpit. Never. So if I can use my platform to bring awareness, yes, we're going to talk about it, because it's needed. We need to talk about things of relationship matters, and things that matter as it relates to what we're doing every day. We deal with it in the workplace. We deal with it in our homes. We deal with it, abroad. It shows up in different spaces and different places. But if we never talk about it, how can we deal with it? How can we deal with it? So I want to go ahead, Val. Go ahead. I see.
Oh, I just wanted to say, it's funny that you're saying that, because that's what we do at Lovesmart. We start them off, the very first class is about self-care and self-love, knowing
Yes.
thyself. And you're right. I did the same thing. I have, mirrors. They can't even tell me 3 things about themselves. And it's sad. But one thing I can say that I have really learned last year is that our children, our youth, they want to know. When I sit down with them or go to the high schools and we talk about Lovesmart, and I'm sitting telling them, this is healthy, this is not unhealthy. Okay, you sharing your location, or you getting 3,000 texts a month from your boyfriend is not healthy. But they think it's healthy because society makes them think all this stuff that's toxic is normalized. And so, but sitting down with them and talking to them, they tell me, nobody is talking to me. I'm like, when was the last time did someone come in? Have you talked to somebody about relationship, healthy relationships when you came last year? Nobody in school, no teacher, no parent, nobody is talking to them. And they want to know, because I think they want to be safe. And so this summer, not with the teens, but I just did a workshop a couple of weeks ago, because I was thinking to myself, how do you that we need to be prepared for relationships? How do we prepare ourselves for a relationship? And so I asked this question, and nobody could tell me even what their boundaries were, what their standards were for someone coming into their life, because we're not preparing. And I'm like, the better you prepare, the less you have to manage, because you just taking anybody, you just allowing anybody in your life. They don't have to be reliable. They don't have to be responsible. They don't have to be nice. They don't have to be intelligent. They don't have to be anything. They just no standards. And it's because we don't think on that level. We think as relationships, We just get together and do what we do, and that's just what we do.
Right.
No, and so even now where I am now in my life, I'm learning I have to prepare. There's some things in my life that are set, there's standards, and that's just it. And if I just end up by myself, I'm going to end up by myself, because I'm learned, like you said, Wendy, after everything I go through, I always go back and I'm stepping outside and seeing who am I now after that happened. I don't care if it's a relationship, something happened in my life personally, whatever it is, I'm going to step back and say, because I'm not that same person. I've learned something. I've gained something. I had to, even if I had to get rid of something, even if, God is saying, let that go, I'm still not that same person. And so, so let me get to know Val where she is right now. And we don't do that. We don't want to sit still. We don't want to take the time, because we don't want to always, everything we see is not going to be good, but you can learn from it and be better. Right. And so that's what it's just like, we have got to get others to understand that is so you gain so much more when you know who you are, and you gain so much more. You really do. And it is work. That's the work, sitting there learning that's the work, but it is such great reward. It's such great reward.
Yeah. I love that. Val, what you said, and Dante, even what you said. And I think, and Mike, what you said, and Lorrie, what you said, when we get back to where the biggest impact is, it really is in that early childhood development. We really have to look at our parenting if we're parents. As adults, what are we speaking into the lives of our children? How are we preparing them? If we're verbally abusive to our children and we are damaging them emotionally from the very beginning, then we are already establishing patterns of behavior and cycles of behavior. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that? Mm-hmm. And so as they grow and mature and they become adults, so much of who we are as adults was seeded, planted, developed when we were children. And so you all talk about your interaction with children at such a very early age, not knowing their value or not having a strong or healthy sense of self-worth. They weren't born that way. They became that way. And so we all have a responsibility to that. So I love how you talked about that, but we really do have to look at generational repetition. Right? How we continue these cycles of dysfunction. Maybe we're hurt. So then we, in turn, unintentionally, sometimes we hurt them. And in doing that, it just continues.
Wendy. All right, man, we ain't got time, Wendy. Oh, we don't have time. All right. So I'll just say you're right. I mean, and a lot of those, if we were to sit down and talk to those parents, they wouldn't even know, right? And so it's, in some ways, like what Valerie's talking about, the work they're doing is kind of important, because there's this, often we'll go, there's a hole, right? In church, they'll say there's a Jesus-sized hole or something like that, that only God can fill, or something to that effect, right? Right. And so a lot of people have difficulty finding that, though, right? How do I bring in Christ? How do I, use faith in order to do that? So they'll use people instead, right? And so, but you have to understand, some people who manipulate you will throw all kind of things into that hole. Oh, you're great, you're beautiful, I love you, you're the best, you're the best, you're the best. However, it's temporary, because they're gonna want that to return. And so then becomes the pull. And it's kind of like a science fiction movie where, they're like stealing all the energy from the planet until it just turns gray, and that's kind of what it's like, right? And so we gotta teach people like who they are, like help, and if they don't know, help them discover who they are, help them to, really work. I love that, Dante. We're going to steal it in some way. I'm not sure how we're going to use it yet, but like, fill that hole. Like, who are you really? Like, why are you worthy of love? Like, what are you really gifted at? Like, you need to know that for yourself, because then you won't need somebody to fill that hole for you, and you'll be able to see clearly and hear clearly too.
That's right. I love this. We're going to end on this, and I'm going to go back around the room. And I really appreciate for everyone just coming in and chiming in and just talking about this tough topic of narcissism. But even as we're talking about relationships and how we even see ourselves is so key, it's so important to what we do and how we progress in life. And as you stated, yeah, it starts, Wendy said it starts at early childhood. You know, how do we really get a handle on this? We got to start early. There's so much that's out here and we see it, but we don't say it. We see it perform and demonstrate it, but we don't put names to it, or we don't put whatever to it, and we don't call it out, and it needs to be addressed. You know, there's so many of these elephants that are in a room and nobody's speaking about it. But I'm just so glad that we're able to talk about this tough topic. So I want to do this in 60 seconds. I'll just go around the room. I'll start with you, Val. Just something that you took away, and maybe some advice that you want to live and or leave with everyone, and let everyone know how to get in contact with you, your organization, your email address, or your social media handles. Feel free to give that information out. I'll start with you,
Oh
Val.
gosh, I'm just, it's like, it's just not enough time. But it has been, I mean, I know it's been good for me because Lorrie came down and stayed with me, and it was just, we both end up talking about narcissism for some reason. I'm like, it's just everywhere, you know. And then I was just reading and hearing about this, the charm and just how, I mean, it's just everywhere. And how we just, so many people just think it's natural, that they don't even know that it's narcissism. It's just a part of society. You know, like you don't even know to say, even if you're asking yourself all these questions, am I crazy? Am I? It's like, that's not even not normal. You know, it's just like, it's just normal. And so I just wanted to do this because I know for myself, having a better understanding will help me to be able to help someone else. And like I said, we deal with our children and how to stop this before they even get that way, because our children are becoming so self-seeking. Yeah, you know, so like at what age, Dr. Mike, and I know we're getting ready to go, but I just thought about this. Does those traits kind of begin, because can they begin at that early? You know how everything is self-seeking when you're young, you know, a young person, and it's all about me and what I did, and you know, because our teen dating violence relationships is based on that power and control. That same what you doing for me, what you didn't do for me. So you seeing this now we're seeing this at 12 and 13. You know, so that's my whole I just want to be able to learn more about it, to be able to spread that to our young people who we are reaching out to, and let that be another resource that we can talk to them about, so that'll bring awareness to them. That's
Yeah. Okay. I know we're wrapping up. And so
yeah.
I use this as my minute, Dante.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's all good. Sigmund Freud, I never thought I'd evoke his name again, but he called infancy primary narcissism. Why? Because the infant, everything they do is about their discomfort and about, you know, feed me, wipe me, pick me up, right? And so what we do as parents is we begin to teach them about other people, you know, and their existence, and the importance to be empathetic and caring and generous and all those things. So those lessons begin to occur, you know, toddler on up into 7, 8, 9 years old. And so then you begin to see the fruit of that later on. But generally speaking, the traits of narcissism are going to pop, you know, early, like adolescence, early adulthood, generally speaking, is when you're going to see what we would consider to be the traits emerge. I'll say this for anybody struggling in a relationship, and it's like, I might be dealing with this. And I think, I forget, was Valerie, was it Lorrie? It doesn't matter. You deserve better, right? You do deserve better. It doesn't matter what you call it. Is this relationship, is this working for you? Is this an exchange? Or are you feeling like this is real way? You're just constantly pouring out, trying to help somebody else fill that hole that they'll never fill, right? If that's where you are, it's okay to do something different. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, that's good. I'll just jump on in here then for the other half of that. I think we shared a number of things, and I would say that if you're in a relationship and you believe you're in a relationship with someone who has narcissistic personality disorder, not someone who's just conceited or thinks highly of themselves or prioritizes themselves or takes selfies of all the time or pictures with you and they're big and you're small. Not that, but actual narcissistic personality disorder. If you believe you're in a relationship like that, it is important that you know yourself. And we talked about that. It's more important, equally as important, that you love yourself. And then I would say when you recognize that this is who you're with, then it may be necessary to free yourself. And so, and that occurs in a number of ways. That could be through faith, that could be through other healthy relationships, just really connecting in a way that you continue to build yourself up. When you are connected to someone who may make it their business and their effort and point to bring you down. And so, like you said, no matter what you call it, maybe it's time for you to get out of it. And I don't want to encourage people to just leap before you know, but we certainly, love is not meant for you to suffer. It's not meant for you to suffer. And we talk about relationship things. We talk specifically about marriage every Monday night at 7 live on Facebook. Well, most Mondays at 7 at the Marriage Shop. So we'd love for you guys to jump on in there with us. Thanks, Dante.
Oh, thank you all. I'm going to share my screen just for a second. If you all are interested in contacting Val, her information is on the screen. Valerie Williams, her website is lovesmartinc.org, and you can find her on Instagram at lovesmartinc. And you can also email her at lovesmartinc@gmail.com, as well as our guests that just spoke, our Dr. Michael and Wendy Perry. They're on Facebook, Catalyst Beyond Leadership. Their page is on Facebook, and find them, look for them. Dr. Michael Perry, Wendy Perry, look for their page. Very interesting. I'm gonna be tuning in on these Relationship Mondays and see what I need to be taking in. So again, there's some really good content and really great individuals here that we have on this platform. We're all here for each other. A book that I'm working on right now as we speak, and it's entitled "Trees Don't Eat Their Fruit." The whole premise behind the book is I have something that somebody else needs. Why am I hoarding my gift? It's for somebody else. And where we find ourselves feeling insignificant is when we think that somebody's really not going to benefit from the very thing I'm struggling with. It's not for me. It's for them. So I'm working on this, and I know it's gonna bless so many people. So Val and Dr. Mike and Wendy, thank you all for coming. I'm gonna end with Lorrie. Lorrie, yeah, final remarks and benediction, as we say in church. Unmute yourself. Yeah, there we go.
Amen. Amen. May the Lord watch. First of all, thank you guys. Thank you guys for joining in this collaboration. As those that know me know, I love to collaborate. I couldn't possibly know everything. Nobody knows everything. But together, I believe we can free some people. And one of the very first things Victory Over Violence did was a summit called Love Doesn't Hurt. And that was the premise of the whole organization. Love doesn't hurt. And I've heard Dr. Michael and Wendy say that over and over. Relationships are work, but love should not be damaging. It should not injure you. That's just not what love is. And when we learn what love is, it makes it a little bit more easier to identify what's not love. And that's where Lovesmart comes in at. And Val teaches these young people so early to love smart and what healthy relationships look like. And for me, when her and I had a discussion about narcissism on Memorial Day weekend, actually, one of the things was just kind of talking through some stuff and going, that just don't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't sit well with me. And one of the things with Victory Over Violence, the reason why I started it is because I saw unhealthy relationships and the violence in relationships with my nieces and with my sister and with people close to me. And I'm like, this has to stop. And I feel the same thing about people with these type personalities that are damaging other people. And when you feel like you have to try to fix a person and it becomes laboring, and as Michael said, it's a burden, that's not love. Love doesn't hurt. But not knowing the origin of where this person learned these bad traits or picked up this bad stuff, that's not your job either. That's for them to get help and want to be better. That's not your job. That's not our job to fix people. But if they are hurting, they are going to continue to hurt people. So that's where you have to love yourself enough to say, you know what? This ain't working for me. I deserve better. I know better. And for me to come to that realization, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm a domestic violence advocate. Wait a minute. This don't feel right. It don't feel right. It don't even sound right. This could not be love. This is not love. And we need to, as advocates, as relationship coaches and experts that we have on this panel today, we want everyone listening now, 5 months from now, 5 years from now, to understand that you need to learn to love yourself and know yourself enough to realize what's love and what's not. And your responsibilities is to teach your family, your children, how to properly love and show them in your actions what love looks like. Tolerating bad behavior, that's not love. That's not love. You're enabling. So we want to be free today. We want people to get free, be free, live free, and be able to love the way God wants us to love.
Yeah,
Okay? Because God is love.
that's right. Thank you, Lori. This is so powerful. And for those of you all that want to join or follow Lori, Victory Over Violence of Florida Inc. is she's the CEO over this nonprofit organization. Or you can go to Lori's page, Victory Over Violence. FL.com, Victory Over Violence Florida FL.com. You can email her at info at victoryoverviolencefl.com, or you can simply find her on Facebook or Instagram at Victory Over Violence FL. Thank you all so much for agreeing to do this. I just believe that somebody's going to walk away with something that they did not know before they tuned in to us on today about narcissism, something dealing with relationships, even introspection about themselves. They're going to walk away different today after listening to us. So, Val, Lori, Dr. Mike, and Wendy, thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you
you,
all so
guys.
much for
Thank you,
extending your
Dante.
Thank
time
you,
this
guys.
Sunday morning. I know some of us hungry,
Thank
we
you.
ready to go get some grub or hit the beach or